The world was bathed in an eerie, golden light, the moon hanging low in the sky like a watchful eye, its crimson edges pulsing with an unnatural energy. Beneath its glow, the once bustling villages of the shinobi world stood silent, their inhabitants trapped in a blissful illusion, the infinite Tsukuyomi. Yet, amidst the stillness, a lone figure stirred. Uzumaki Naruto, the seventh Hokage, gritted his teeth as he forced his aching body upright, his cerulean eyes blazing with defiance. The dreamlike paradise around him was a lie, a prison woven by the cunning hands of Uchiha Madara, and Naruto refused to surrender to it. His fists clenched, knuckles white with tension, as he recalled the final moments before the genjutsu had engulfed the world. The battlefield had been a maelstrom of fire and shadow, the allied shinobi forces clashing against Madara's overwhelming power. Naruto had fought with everything he had, his Rasengan spiraling through the air, his nine tails chakra flaring like a second sun, but even his might had not been enough. Now, as he stood in this fabricated reality, the weight of failure pressed down on him. But failure was not an option. Not when his friends, his family, the entire world, depended on him to break free. A rustle in the distance snapped him from his thoughts. His senses sharpened, adrenaline surging as he recognized the familiar chakra signature approaching. Uchiha Sasuke emerged from the shadows, his Sharingan spinning ominously, his expression as unreadable as ever. "Took you long enough to wake up," Sasuke muttered, his voice laced with dry amusement. Naruto grinned despite the dire circumstances. "Yeah, well, some of us don't have fancy Uchiha eyes to cheat with," he shot back. Their banter was cut short as the ground trembled beneath them. A monstrous figure descended from the sky, its massive frame casting a long shadow over them. A white Zetsu, twisted and grotesque, its body pulsing with unnatural vitality, snarled as it lunged. Naruto didn't hesitate. With a burst of chakra, he launched forward, his fist wreathed in blue energy. Rasengan. The sphere of swirling power collided with the creature's chest, sending it reeling, but it didn't fall. Instead, its flesh writhed, stitching itself back together. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "They regenerate," he observed coolly. Before Naruto could respond, Sasuke's hand shot up, black flames erupting from his palm. Amaterasu. The cursed fire engulfed the Zetsu, its shrieks piercing the air as it burned. Yet, even as its body turned to ash, more figures emerged from the trees, dozens of them, their hollow eyes fixed on the two shinobi. Naruto exhaled sharply, his resolve hardening. "Guess we're doing this the hard way." Golden chakra surged around him, the nine tails power enveloping his body in a fiery cloak. His nails elongated into claws, his whisker marks darkening as he entered his tailed beast mode. Sasuke, meanwhile, activated his Rinnegan, the purple ripple of his eye gleaming with otherworldly power. The battle erupted in a blur of motion. Naruto blurred forward, his speed unmatched, delivering a devastating roundhouse kick that sent three Zetsu flying. He followed up with a barrage of shadow clones, each one slamming Rasengans into their foes. Sasuke danced between enemies, his sword flashing as he severed limbs with precision, his Susanoo manifesting briefly to crush a group beneath its skeletal fist. But the tide was relentless. The Zetsu kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. Naruto's muscles burned, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he pushed himself further. "We can't keep this up forever," he shouted over the chaos. Sasuke's gaze flickered to the crimson moon above. "We don't have to," he replied. "We just need to reach Madara." The realization struck Naruto like a lightning bolt. This wasn't just about survival, it was about breaking the illusion at its source. With renewed determination, he channeled his chakra, forming a massive Rasen shuriken in his palm. Sasuke, sensing his intent, raised his hand, black flames merging with the spinning wind technique. Together, they unleashed their combined attack, the explosion tearing through the horde, clearing a path. As the dust settled, Naruto met Sasuke's gaze. No words were needed. They had fought side by side for years, their bond unshakable even in the face of despair. The infinite Tsukuyomi was a nightmare, but they were the ones who would end it. The real battle was just beginning. The air crackled with tension as Naruto stood amidst the twisted dreamscape of the infinite Tsukuyomi, his breath ragged, fists clenched. Around him, the warped illusions of his friends and enemies flickered, their hollow smiles mocking his resolve. But this wasn't just a nightmare, it was a battlefield, and he had to shatter it. Sasuke's voice cut through the haze, sharp and cold. "You're slow, Naruto. This isn't the time to hesitate." His Sharingan gleamed as he dodged a barrage of phantom kunai, his movements fluid, precise. Naruto gritted his teeth, feeling the weight of his exhaustion. But he couldn't afford to stop, not when the enemy was closing in. From the shadows, Madara emerged, his Rinnegan pulsing with malevolent energy. "You two still cling to your feudal resistance?" he taunted, raising a hand. The ground erupted, massive wooden spikes shooting toward them like spears. Naruto barely had time to react, channeling Kurama's chakra in a burst of golden flames. His cloak flared as he leapt, twisting midair to evade the assault. Sasuke wasn't idle either, his Susanoo skeletal arm deflected the attack, the impact sending shockwaves through the dreamscape. Naruto landed hard, skidding backward. His muscles burned, but he forced himself forward. "We've got to hit him together," he shouted. Sasuke gave a curt nod, his Rinnegan spinning. In an instant, they moved, Naruto forming a Rasengan in one hand, Sasuke igniting his Chidori in the other. Their attacks collided with Madara's defenses, the explosion of energy sending debris flying. But Madara only smirked, his form flickering as he vanished, reappearing above them. "Pathetic," he sneered, slamming his foot down. The force of the kick sent Naruto crashing into the ground, the impact rattling his bones. Blood trickled from his lip, but he forced himself up, his vision swimming. He couldn't lose, not here. Kurama's voice growled in his mind. "You're holding back, idiot. If you want to win, stop hesitating." Naruto's eyes narrowed. He clenched his fists, feeling the surge of power as his cloak intensified, swirling with raw energy. Across from him, Sasuke's Susanoo flared to life, its armored form crackling with lightning. They exchanged a glance, no words needed. This was it. Madara's laughter echoed as he unleashed his perfect Susanoo, the towering warrior of blue chakra dwarfing them. But Naruto and Sasuke didn't falter. With a roar, Naruto launched himself forward, his Rasen Shuriken spinning violently. Sasuke flanked, his Amaterasu flames lashing out like black serpents. The clash was cataclysmic, the shockwaves tearing through the illusion itself. For a moment, everything was still. Then, Madara staggered, a crack forming in his Susanoo. Naruto didn't waste the opening. He poured every ounce of strength into his next strike, his fist connecting with Madara's jaw. The dreamscape trembled, fractures spreading like spiderwebs. But Madara wasn't done. His eyes blazed as he activated Limbo, his shadow clones materializing from another plane. Naruto barely dodged the first strike, but the second sent him reeling. Sasuke barely managed to block the third with his sword, the force nearly shattering it. They were being overwhelmed. Then, a voice. "Sakura's. You're not alone." Her fist cratered the ground as she joined the fray, her chakra-enhanced strength sending one of the Limbo clones flying. Naruto grinned despite the pain. "About time," he shouted. With renewed determination, they fought as one, Naruto's clones swarming, Sasuke's precision strikes, Sakura's devastating blows. The dreamscape shuddered, reality itself straining under their assault. Madara's confidence wavered, his attacks growing desperate. Then, in a final, explosive moment, Naruto and Sasuke struck together, their combined power ripping through the infinite Tsukuyomi like a storm. Light swallowed everything, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Naruto saw the real sky. But the battle wasn't over. As the dust settled, a new threat loomed. And Naruto knew, this was only the beginning. The air crackled with raw chakra as Naruto and Sasuke stood back to back, their ragged breaths sinking in the desperate rhythm of battle. Around them, the infinite Tsukuyomi's illusionary world trembled, its false reality peeling away like brittle parchment. Madara loomed above, his Rinnegan eyes gleaming with godlike arrogance, his Susanoo flaring like a monstrous specter of violet fire. "You're fighting against fate itself," he taunted, his voice echoing across the shattered battlefield. "This dream is the only salvation for this wretched world." Naruto's fists clenched, his nine-tails cloak flickering as Kurama's voice growled in his mind. "We're running out of time, kid. One last push, everything we've got." With a roar, Naruto surged forward, his body a golden blur as he launched a barrage of Rasen Shuriken, each spinning disc slicing through the air with lethal precision. Madara countered effortlessly, his truth-seeking orbs dissolving the attacks mid-flight, but Naruto didn't relent. He feinted left, then pivoted, his shadow clones exploding into smoke as he aimed a devastating uppercut, only for Madara to catch his wrist with a smirk. Predictable, he sneered before slamming Naruto into the ground with earth-shattering force. Sasuke seized the opening, his Sharingan spinning into the Rinnegan's deadly pattern. Amaterasu. Black flames erupted around Madara, but the Uchiha progenitor merely laughed, absorbing the fire into his Preta path. Before Sasuke could react, Madara's skeletal Susanoo arm lashed out, sending him skidding across the battlefield, blood streaking from his lips. Pain flared through Sasuke's body, but his mind burned sharper. This isn't enough. We need something beyond limits. His gaze flicked to Naruto, who was already staggering back to his feet, determination blazing in his eyes. A silent understanding passed between them, years of rivalry, of pain, of unspoken trust crystallizing in this single moment. Now, Naruto bellowed, slamming his palm into Sasuke's. Their chakra fused in a cataclysmic explosion of light, the sheer force of their combined power tearing through the battlefield. The ground split beneath them, the sky itself seemed to fracture as Indra and Asura's energy intertwined. Madara's eyes widened for the first time in genuine shock. Impossible. The world turned white. When the dust cleared, Madara stood frozen, his body crumbling like ash. The infinite Tsukuyomi shattered, its genjutsu dissolving into nothingness as the trapped souls of the world gasped awake. The battlefield fell eerily silent, save for the ragged breaths of the survivors. Sakura's healing glow flickered over Kakashi's wounds, while Gaara's sand gently lowered the wounded to safety. But all eyes were on Naruto and Sasuke, their bodies battered but unbroken. Naruto collapsed to one knee, his vision swimming. "We did it," he panted, a tired grin splitting his face. Sasuke exhaled sharply, his Sharingan fading as he stared at the sunrise breaking over the horizon. Took you long enough." The aftermath was a world reborn. Villages once divided now stood united, their leaders humbled by the cost of war. The shinobi system would never be the same, Naruto's dream of peace no longer a naive fantasy, but a foundation being built. And as for Sasuke, his path had finally led him home, not as a rogue, but as a guardian. The battle was over, but their legacy had only just begun.